today, and I am very
Maybe that's sweet.
recording. So I am very excited to be here with all of you guys, and I thank you guys for taking time out of your afternoon to come out and to just listen in and hopefully learn some good things from this seminar or from this webinar. So we're going to just jump right in, and this webinar is going to be raising a money smart kid. So we're going to learn a little bit about just raising your child financially responsible. And really at any age, all these practices could be used at any age, whether it's a child that is going into school and we got those 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, or we have those older ones, those high schoolers, the ones that are going to eventually go into adulthood. So I ask that you guys be as interactive as possible. I'm going to drop some questions out there, and you as parents just go ahead and answer, give your experience, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. We are just here as one big family, just learning from each other. So again, we're gonna just kind of jump right into different topics. We'll learn a little bit about allowances, contributing to a household income, shopping, just different needs and wants, whatever the case may be. So I am seeing in the chat that they're saying you guys are all muted. Ms. Fullwood did mention that this is kind of going to be webinar style. So any kind of questions or concerns or comments that you guys want to drop in the chat, you guys could just type it out for me. All right, so jumping right in. So I'm going to ask a question. We're going to start right off. Have any of you ever faced any challenges when teaching your kids good money management skills? So any challenges that you guys are facing nowadays, just teaching, again, those money management skills. If you guys want to go ahead and drop it in the chat, I would love to hear what kind of just issues you guys are facing. So I'll give it a moment. I will say, I know a big thing is peer influence. We have a lot of peers and others kind of just talking different kind of things into our young children's ears. So that can be a difficult situation. All right, so we got people, I love it. So my son is a spender. I completely understand. I have a child that wants to go to Starbucks every other day. Listen, they start off young. And someone just said that they don't have any money issues, which is great. We have somebody that said money doesn't grow on trees. Understand that's a hard one. So yeah. So again, some complications or maybe some issues that you guys might be facing are, again, that peer influence or advertisement. Nowadays, advertisement really is targeting our young adults and kind of getting into their head. So it's really difficult for those spender children that want to spend their dimes on everything. When they see that advertisement coming up, they're like, whoa, I want that, right? So again, I see the chat kind of going off and I love it. Keep saying some video games. Yes, this is a big one. So now I will say many parents maybe wish they learned a little bit more money management from their own parents growing up. But this kind of might bring in confidence issues when talking to their children about finances, because they're maybe not as confident because their parents didn't talk to them about finances. And I completely understand, because that can be difficult, right? When we grew up, we didn't get a lot of that talk, that money talk. It might be hard not knowing how to conversate about money. So raising a money smart kid can seem challenging, but it is possible. We have a few money management skills that can be taught in 2 different ways. So you have your explicit messages, which these are what you actually tell your children. So verbatim, you are telling out of your mouth, you were saying, hey, maybe you should save up for this. Maybe you don't spend all of your money on Starbucks or on video games. And then we have the modeling tactic. So just what you actually are doing. So what you are showing. So learning by example, right? So there should be a balance between what you tell your children and what you do. So if you tell them to save, but they see you spending every penny of every day, they're probably not going to take in that advice, right? So mom, if you are telling your child, you don't need to have Starbucks every day, but they see you going to Starbucks every day, they're probably not going to be listening to you saying it because they're going to be like, she's saying it, but look at her going to Starbucks every day, right? So handling your money in the way that you want your child to. They are always observant, and sometimes they observe things that we don't think they are observing. So again, just managing your money, you want them the way you want them to. So, and then also just seeking out for help. If maybe right now you are not in a financial situation or you feel like money management isn't your strong suit, maybe seeking out for help and making this something that you guys do together and find ways to learn how to manage your money as a family. So how it leads into, so where do your kids get their money? So that's a question for you. Where are your kids getting their money nowadays? So how are they receiving their money? So kids have significant income and spending power, right? For most kids, the income they receive are primarily from that allowance or other sources as well. So, okay, we have allowances. So what are again, some other ways that they might be receiving them? Gifts, yes, we got gifts. I know primarily that was a lot of how I received my money because I didn't get an allowance. So gifts are a big one. Doing chores, earning A's on a report card. Grandparents, we gotta love those grandparents, right? Birthdays, yes. And then we got just receiving money by asking for it, right? So I know that probably all of you guys have experience with your kids kind of just going up to you and saying, hey mom, I want money. Hey dad, I need some money to go out. I need some money to buy some gifts, right? So those are some ways that right now they are all receiving money. All right, we got Tooth Fairy, that's a good one. And summer homework challenges. We got lemonade stands. That's an old fashioned one. I haven't seen that one in a while. So yeah, so those are all some different ways that your kids are receiving money now. So that leads into, where are your kids spending their money? So I know that I kind of asked a little bit of that earlier and someone said Starbucks, which again, they start off early. Yep, we got some toys. So expenses can vary, but money is often spent on entertainment and consumables. I know that for my younger brother, he spends probably half of his money at the gas station buying candy or Slurpees or going out to any fast food restaurant that's in sight. So we got online games, book fair, stock. I love that. Okay, we got snacks and candies. Again, they love their foods. And then, so a large part of the battle is won by getting your children to think about why they are spending their money and on what items they're spending their money on, right? So again, we have that music and entertainment, just going out, maybe going skating or whatever, a birthday party that requires an entry. So again, we got the video games, which that's an expensive one nowadays. Not only do you have to buy that expensive console, but every game is about $40, $50. So it does become a little bit of an expensive habit. We got clothes, yeah. Also, we have music. I know that we aren't actually purchasing for the music or the music anymore, or buying CDs like we used to, but maybe they don't like to listen to commercials like many children don't. So they're paying for those premium services, whether that's Pandora or Spotify, to not listen to those ads, right? So I see technology. That's a good one. Comic books. We got somebody said that they love Spotify. Yeah. So, and books. I love that. All right. So we're going to go into budgeting. So now we're going to get to the nitty gritty of it. So your children probably do not have to worry about paying many bills right now, but teaching them to budget very early on is going to establish those skills early on before they have to have those important bills that they have to pay, before they have big responsibilities like paying rent or paying their car bill. So wise money management involves 3 basic principles. So we have that income is limited. So I know I saw earlier, money doesn't grow on trees. So for them to understand that income is limited. So when you are older, you are going to have that set salary, and that set salary is going to be it. So once you have spent all of that, it's gone. I know that right now they might have, again, the habit of just asking mom or dad. They're always there to bail them out if they need it. But that's not always going to be the circumstance, right? So for them to understand very early on, money is limited. And then we have spending should be controlled. Again, this is a good one for them to understand. Not everything that's in sight they need to buy or need. I know that as a child, sometimes that toy, the newest thing, seemed like a necessity. Video games seem like a necessity to keep up conversation with your friends, right? So it almost feels like it's a necessity, but for them to understand, spending should be controlled, that it shouldn't be just that I have money and I have to spend it. And then lastly, some income should be saved. So we're going to go a little bit into all of these topics for them to kind of understand, for you guys to understand that these are all those just principles that they should learn very early on. All right. So that's going, now we're going into income. So when your child grows up, as we talked about earlier, they will have to pay out of a set salary, right? Thus, it is important and a good idea for them to understand right off bat the money is limited. So a great way to do this can be by implementing an allowance. So if you always buy everything that your child asks for, in their eyes, they see their money as limitless. So with an allowance, they will realize that they only get as much money. They only get as this amount of money to spend, so they have to spend it carefully. So when giving an allowance, you should have to determine some details, right? So we have the amount. How much should I give? I know that this tends to be a big question with parents. How much should an allowance be, right? So the answer is there is no answer, right? There's not a simple answer to this. There are many factors to consider when thinking about it, and really, what can your family afford? We're not saying break the bank, right? And that really shouldn't be a thing, but just kind of seeing what can my family afford to give. So a popular method I know is giving a child their allowance be the age that they are. So if they are 5 years old, maybe it's giving them $5, right? Or if they are 10, giving them 10. But again, understanding what is the frequency of this allowance going to be? That's going to be up to your family, what you guys can manage to do. The second one is, should allowance be linked to chores? Now, again, this one is a question. And it has very many different answers, right? We have some people that say no, because chores is, you're part of this family and you do chores. And that was the case for me. So growing up, I know that chores were not rewarded. And it's just how it was in my family. If you are part of this family, you don't have to pay bills in this house. So you don't get paid for chores because, again, you're just part of this family. And then others people feel that it is a great tool or skill to learn. So it's teaching them, okay, so you don't receive money if you don't actually do things. So neither of these situations are wrong. And some people like to do a combination. So if your child has the responsibility or the chore to maybe take out the trash, so that is their chore, right? But maybe the combination is if they do something outside of the scope of their chores, so they go outside and they do yard work with you, or they are, what are some other things? Maybe walking the dog, babysitting, and they do something, again, outside of the scope of their chores, paying them for those. Why? Because it's not really in their responsibility and it's something they're doing outside of the chores that they have, so their responsibility. So again, it's just finding that combination. And then what expenses will your children have to pay with for this allowance? So it defeats the purpose of an allowance if you just buy them everything they ask for, right? So they need to know that it is not about just squandering all of their allowance, especially for these older children, that they are going to be responsible for paying certain things, right? And again, this kind of is something to discuss within your family. What are you comfortable with your child paying? I know that this tends to be a little bit for the older kids, whether it's that mom and dad decide, okay, yes, you can have a car. We will go ahead and help you get that car and we will pay for the insurance, but you have to pay the monthly fee. Or the monthly bill for that vehicle, right? So again, they're understanding that maybe with their allowance or what they're making, they're having to pay their responsibility. So kind of just making it a clear thing for them to understand. Okay, so with my allowance, this is what I'm going to have to pay. And then again, making it very clear to them so that they know once they have this money, they have to pay their responsibilities first, right? We know that when we have our income, we can't have any fun until we pay all of our expenses, right? So same thing for them. Until they pay their expenses, they shouldn't be maybe going out or spending all that allowance on something. Once that expense is paid, they're able to kind of work with that extra money that they have. All right, and to continue with income. So allowance is usually probably the most consistent source of income, but it is not the only one, right? It is common for kids to receive holiday and birthday gifts. And it is really easy for them to think, oh, it's my birthday and I'm getting free money, right? Except it's not free money. It is money that is coming to them, but for them to understand that they should not spend it hastily because they're seeing it as free money and they didn't work for that money, right? So maybe it's asking them the question, do you really want to spend all that money, right? So I'll tell you a little story about me. In my 18 years of life, I did not receive 1 cent from my birthday gifts or my holiday gifts. And that was because my mom decided that every time I would give money, she would take all of it and put it straight into a savings account. And that made me miserable it made me miserable. I was like, there's no way. I don't get to touch it. I don't get to spend money. And I would come back from Christmas break and everybody would be talking about all the cool things they bought with their Christmas money, except I didn't get that. Now, when I turned 20, my mom actually handed me a certificate with all the money I had saved from all of my birthday and my holidays. And I will say, I did not miss anything in life. But I had the opportunity to have that money in a time where I actually needed it. So I will say I did not see the benefit in it as I was growing up. I was quite upset on it. But I did down the line actually really appreciate it. So I have a couple people asking me how much it was. It was a good amount. I want to say it was like maybe 5,000 and the $5,000. So again, for Christmas money and holiday money, it was a pretty good chunk, and it was kind of able to help me into paying off my vehicle. So that was great. And again, it was something that I wouldn't have thought of when I was 5 years old, when I was 10 years old. I wasn't thinking about responsibilities I would have as an adult, but it was a great thing that my mom did. Again, not for everybody, but it definitely worked for her. So then we have considering bonds. I know that nowadays bonds aren't as common, and before it used to be super common, especially for grandparents. I actually was a teller before I was in this position, and I saw a lot of people in their mid to late 20s coming in and cashing out their bonds. And it was great money that they were receiving. And they were kind of forced to not touch that money because, again, you have to wait for that maturity if you want to receive that full face amount of your bond. So again, it was a great opportunity for these children, again, to receive this certificate and be like, in 20 years, you're going to get money. Probably wasn't the best gift, but down the line, they were able to actually put it to something of use when they were in a position where they actually needed money. So that's something to consider. I know also gifts are getting very creative. My niece a couple of months ago just turned 6, and mom was like, we're done with toys. We don't need toys. We don't need clothes. So please contribute to her ballet fund. So a little bit by my niece, she loves anything to do with dance, gymnastics. So we were all for it. So we were able to actually help contribute to her ballet fund. And I get to see her every week. Mom sends me videos of her going to ballet, and I just see the excitement in her eyes and the enjoyment. So again, these are different things to consider when it comes to gifts, because again, we know birthdays come around, holidays come around, and those toys within 2 weeks, they're not playing with it, right? So that might be something to consider. And then we have another source of income can be a part-time job. So part-time jobs are great because it teaches obviously a child of responsibility very early on. So teaching them that time management skills, how to manage their money, seeing their income come in. And then it teaches them the most important thing, the value of money, right? So they are able to understand, wow, it took me 10 hours to receive that $100. They probably won't be as inclined to run off and spend a full $100 and not see the value in it, right? Because they actually were able to link that the responsibility of having to work for those, right? So it teaches them, again, the value of money. And just a quick note to understand that this might not be right for everybody, and we completely understand it. Particularly for me, I was very into extracurriculars at school. So between the different extracurriculars and just my workload because I had my AP classes and my higher up classes, and it consumed my time. So I know that my mom was not pushing for me to get a part-time job because she knew that school was my full-time job. So it might not be right for everybody. We also have the trouble of maybe getting to their job. So it's not to say that every child should have a part-time job, because again, we know that that's not feasible for every family. So again, it's understanding that it is a great thing to have, but it might not be the best for everybody. All right. So now we're going to go a little bit into shopping and spending, right? So once you have created your allowance plan, you can help your child create a spending plan. They should already know what they have to pay for by themselves, but they will have to determine how much will go to each category. So again, we have categories like entertainment, we have the bills category. So they would have to kind of sit down and kind of allocate where is that money going to. When they're talking about entertainment, so that Starbucks is going to fall under entertainment. So going to the movies is going to fall under entertainment, but they're going to be able to see, okay, so this is the amount I have to spend for that particular category. So why a spending plan? It helps avoid scenarios where your child spends all of his money or all of her money on candy or on toys or on something that they don't need, right? So children generally don't have any essential expenses to pay for, so it's not a big deal if they run out of money. But uncontrollable spending will lead to bad habits. And the older that they get, those bad habits actually lead to worse consequences, right? So they won't be able to pay for those important bills, like the car bill, the light bill, the water bill, right? So this is not something that you want to build. That's not a good habit that they want to build up, right? So when your children are making decisions, of course, you want to provide them with advice, but you still want to just watch them make their mistakes. And I know as parents, that's very difficult to say, to watch your child make a bad financial decision. But these small failures are going to teach them a lesson and teach them how to learn what are the consequences of their decisions, right? I'm going to jump into the chat because I do see a question, and it says thoughts on if they want something but left their money at home. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, but I'll lead into that. Right. So now we'll say, providing them with advice so that they can kind of learn, and then just letting them fall and learn from their mistakes. So avoid bailing them out. Again, I will say I come from a family that came from nothing, and that bailing them out, my dad really wanted to give me everything. So he never wanted me to feel like I lacked anything. So that's really difficult when maybe they left their money at home, right? And you want to be like, oh, okay, it's okay. I'll just cover you and I'll give you this. But again, just try to avoid bailing them out. If they go to the cash register and they have $10 in their hands and their game is $12, don't just say, oh, here, I'll give you the $12 or the $2, $2 extra, right? So if you do decide, and that is a conversation, and they ask you, are you able to let me borrow the $2 and I will work it off? Consider maybe charging them interest like a loan. So for them to understand that anytime that they are going to need to borrow money, they're going to have to pay interest back. So it's not about borrowing money and that's it. In most cases in our lives, anytime we borrow money for a vehicle, for a house, on our credit cards, and we don't pay it back right at that moment, we have to pay interest on it. So maybe saying, okay, I'll give you that $10, but you'll have to pay me back 11 because you are borrowing this money. So now let's do a little exercise. So how many of you guys have been on a shopping trip where your child wanted something that was not in the buying plan? So you walked in, only thing that comes into my head right now is Disney. So you walk in and you say, you are not getting a toy, right? And they're like, I want this and this and this. Or you say, oh, you can grab that one toy, and they come back with 6 different toys on their hands. So I'm sure that as parents, all of us have experienced that, but how did you deal with it? So if you want to drop in the chat, how did you deal with your child wanting something that was just not in the plan when you walked in? Okay, so we have just a plain I don't know, which is fine. Just say no, okay. Okay, they get one item. I bought them what they wanted. I never had that problem. I never had a problem with saying no, okay. Okay, I would say for another time. Okay, I say no. So, okay, so it looks like a lot of you guys don't have problems with saying no, and that's, again, a great thing. So again, when shopping, consider using these different kind of ways of shopping. So going in and saying the buy one thing rule. So this is going to teach them the value of comparison, right? Because you're going to tell them, hey, I'm only able to buy, you're only able to buy one thing. So they're going to come in with the mentality is, which one thing is better? Right? So they'll kind of be able to compare what place and what kind of thing is better for them to buy, right? We also have the it's okay to say no. Understand that it's not going to scar your kids. Again, like I said, my dad wanted to give me everything, which I was totally okay with. But I will say that he probably could have done with saying just no sometimes, right? So again, I know it's a challenge, and for him, it was more so of he grew up with nothing. So he didn't want me to ever feel like I couldn't have anything. So he wanted me to have it. So again, that was just a dad thing. Mom was well okay with saying no. And then the third one we have just encouraging waiting. So with waiting, they're actually able to maybe see, do they actually want it a couple of days from now? So again, this is just gonna show them something maybe they think they really wanted. They don't really want it a couple of days from now. So if in a few days you reevaluate and you sit down and you say, okay, I still do want this toy. So maybe then you guys can go back and revisit the conversation of going. All right. So when shopping, remember that your children are watching you, right? So think of your own shopping habits. So are you going in and saying, all I need is to buy one thing, right? Maybe you're going into a Marshall's or a mall and saying, I need to buy a dress for a specific event. And then you walk out with 6 different things. And I'm not placing blame or pointing fingers, because I well understand that, because I fall victim to that all the time, where I walk in with my eyes set on, I need to buy this one dress for Mother's Day that is coming up, except I come out with a dress and a shirt and whatever else is in sight. So again, understanding that your children are watching you. So they are forming their own habits based off of what they're seeing. So are you putting a lot of things on your credit? Because again, they might see this and see it as a resort or just a resolution to wanting everything, right? So have you ever asked, have you ever had your child maybe come up to you? This is now we're talking a little bit about advertisement, but have you ever had your child come up to you and say, oh, I just saw this this advertisement and this is what I want. This is the newest thing that I want. So parents, have you ever had your kid coming up to you just giving you a whole spiel about the benefits of the toys that they want? So what are some tools that these advertisements are using to grasp your child's attention? If you guys want to go ahead and drop that in the chat. So again, so what are these commercials using to appeal to your children? So glittery. All right, yeah, that's it. So again, special features, right? So I'll speak on me again. I grew up in a day and age where we had commercials. Okay, we got testimonials, the new and improved. All right, so again, we actually had commercials. So when my show paused, we had to, I had to go to the whole 2 minutes of commercials, right? And something would come up and I was like, mom. I'd probably run to the kitchen and be like, come and see this commercial. This is the toy that I really wanted, right? So understand that these advertisements are spending millions of dollars to grasp your children's attention because they understand the buying power that a child has, right? So by watching television and looking at these ads with your children, you have the opportunity to discuss about endorsements, about brand names, about lifestyles, about images, and talk to them about what features they should be on the lookout for when deciding to buy something, such as quality and the usefulness. Do they really need this, right? Is maybe I know that a big one tends to be those testimonials that I saw on the chat. So what child, what actress or actor or somebody that is in their show is saying, you need this newest toy, right? So having them sit down and maybe you guys can do a bit of a research together and see what's the quality of this toy. Am I going to use this on my day-to-day? Is this something that I'm really going to use more than 10 minutes? Because again, like I said, sometimes get this toy and within 2 weeks, they're done and over with. So again, just understanding that those celebrity endorsements, those are their jobs. And although it's great to see your favorite star on a commercial, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the best item to get, right? All right, so we have somebody in the chat said, at 6, I gave my child change for an allowance to teach her what the coins were. Okay, so yeah, it's again just that recognition. I know that the younger children, it's all about recognition of coins and understanding the amounts. So really, it's just whatever that introduction of money works, whatever works for you guys. All right. So now leading into saving. So how many of you guys, if you guys want to drop in the chat, how many of you guys right now are putting aside money for your children's savings accounts, or they are putting money in their savings account? All right, so we have a few people. That is great. Love to see it. So now, is anybody saving for something in particular? All right, so we have a Florida prepaid college. That's great. So 529. So we have people saving up for a car. That's awesome. Saving the rest of college. We made a special for a special trip. That's great. Emergencies, futures, Orbeez. All right, education. So a little bit over the span. So we have vacations coming up for our education and future, for stock, for just different items, which are all great. So again, saving helps you afford the things that you cannot buy right now, right? So that's basically, in simplest terms, that's really what that savings is there for, and it's also there for those emergency. We know we typically say saving up at least 3 to 6 months of your income, right? So building up that emergency fund. So for children, this can include saving up for things like toys or for clothing. So establishing a savings account can teach them very early on good saving habits that will just kind of help them, again, towards those important goals that they are saving for. I know that I saw on there also retirement. That is a great conversation to have with your children, especially those in that high school age. Sometimes when we leave high school or we get our first job, I know that was the case for me. Retirement was not on my mind, right? Because retirement seemed so far away. I was 18, got my first job, and I was like, 401k, what? That's not for me, right? But the way I like to describe it to kids now is I ask them, do you want to work for the rest of your life? And most of them say that they don't. At one point, they want to be able to travel the world. At one point, they want to be able to enjoy themselves, right? So that really is what that retirement is for, so that later down the line, they're able to enjoy themselves and have financial freedom without having to work every day of their life, right? So again, so motivating your kids to save can be hard since instant gratification is more fun than that delayed gratification, but setting up goals can help your children so that they don't feel like they're saving for no reason. So for your younger children, so that's gonna be that long-term goal is gonna be a lot shorter, right? Because their attention spans, their ability to remember is a lot shorter than maybe the older kids that are able to save up for things like a car. They can actually see these things, or saving up for college. All right. So determine what to save. So again, ask your children, what are you wanting to save for? This can be a great conversation starter for you guys to sit down and kind of start establishing a savings account and having that conversation within your family. So what kind of things are you wanting to save for? Son, daughter, car, newest shoes, video games, a trip, maybe I know senior year, they have things like Brad Bash or prom. So these are all things that they might be looking forward to save. And then help them do the research. This can be, again, an activity for both you guys to do and establish, okay, so this car that I want is going to cost $5,000 and I want to, or $10,000, and I want to put at least a $2,000 down payment. So kind of establish a timeline. How long is it going to take me to maybe get a car? Maybe I'm 3 years away from having or being able to get my permit, right? So you guys can actually figure out a specific amount, because the important thing about a goal is to be specific, right? So it's not just saying I want a car, because then that's just me wishing or a dream that I have, but it's saying I want this car and it's going to take me this much money. So research and decide I need to save up $50 a month for the next 3 years to be able to save up that specific amount for that down payment. So then again, you guys can both measure it. If maybe you're 2 months in and or three or 4 months in and you only have $150, you're $50 short, right? So again, it's one of those things that you're able to measure. I'm not meeting this goal, so I have to adjust it. So what are some saving tips? So providing visual aids, right? Making some pictures, maybe a thermometer for them reaching their specific goal. We have charts or different ways to track that money. And we also have providing a place to put their money. So this is great for that younger audience, right? So maybe it's a piggy bank or a savings account so that they can actually see their money growing. And this is going to encourage kind of the excitement. So as they see their money building up, they're able to get excited about saving, right? So also making sure that their allowance can be easily divided up into savings, to like a savings portion. For example, a pile of dollar bills is a lot easier to allocate and decide and say, okay, I want to put $1 towards my savings and $2 towards this, as opposed to giving them a $10 bill. So again, maybe just giving them smaller denominations so that they're able to put to specific places. Also, another good option would be just offering for them to automatically put money into their savings account. Again, the savings, the 401ks, their IRAs. So this is a great way. Maybe you say, oh, I'm actually, your allowance is $10. And maybe you have a conversation about, I want to put 10% in. So putting $1 of that. So you automatically put $1 into their savings account. And it's something that they're aware of, right? And then praising your child for their savings. So they are able to see and be aware that that they're saving and that they're doing a good job, right? And then another thing is, again, teaching by example. So maybe this is an activity that you guys can do together. If maybe the TV broke, and you guys as a family have to save, or you particularly have to save, you and your husband, you and your wife, your spouse, you guys are saving up to get a TV. So maybe it's a family event, right? So maybe as a family, you are putting a piggy bank or a jar where you are saving up from portions of your check to buy that TV. So again, it's kind of an activity where you guys can all see that savings build and eventually buy that new TV that is necessary. So that's just a great way. And then paying interest. So we'll talk a little bit about interest on the next slide. So for adults, savings is rewarded with interest payments. So if your child has a savings account, they will automatically get interest. So when receiving their statements, maybe pointing out to them where the interest is accumulating so that they can see and explain to them, hey, for you saving your money, the bank or the credit union is actually giving you money as a reward for saving that money, right? If your child maybe has a savings account or a piggy bank, maybe it's deciding, you say for every $10 you save, almost that matching program, right? For every $10 you save, we're gonna put a dollar in there. So, and instead of saying matching, maybe it's you're saying, oh, we're going to give you interest, right? So for them to understand the concept of if you save, you get interest on that money. So in this example right here, I know it's a little bit of a high interest, we love to get a 3% interest return back, but it's just to show the idea of compound interest, right? So that is that your interest is earning interest. So money that is put into your account is earning interest. So again, it's a great concept for them to understand that it's money that they never had that was deposited by their financial institution that is earning interest on that money. And then final is for your young children, playing basic role-playing games like store or financial institution can teach them about that money exchange. So again, as they are learning how to manage their money and earning the dollars and the 20s and whatever the case may be, they're able to learn that money exchange or counting coin or counting cash. And for the older kids, you can develop a greater grasp of spending and like mini entrepreneur games like Monopoly. I know it's a little bit out there and it's big amounts of money, but they're understanding the concept of that enterprise, right? Or the game of life, where it's showing them that life is unexpected and sometimes you have to put a little more money out. So again, just encouraging kind of those games as a family can open up doors to conversations on monies in general. So that concludes our Raising a Money Smart Kid workshop. And if you guys have any questions at all, any questions, any comments, concerns on how to raise a money smart kid or just ideas, definitely drop them in the chat. I will be here for the next few minutes. So if you have, just drop it in the chat. And before you leave, I actually have a question for you. If you can share something meaningful that you've learned during the presentations, if you've watched the whole series or if you've just watched this one itself, share something meaningful, something that maybe really helped your family, or some helpful skills or tips and tricks that you've learned in this series. That would be very, very helpful and appreciated.
Thank you so much. Yes, this is being recorded and it will be posted on our YouTube channel. You will get a follow-up email with, if you register, you will get a follow-up email with our YouTube channel. It is posted in the chat right now, so you can grab a hold of it. It'll be posted there by the end of the week, maybe not tomorrow, but by the end of the week. And we ask that you share it with your family, your friends, your other relatives who were not able to make it. Thank you so much. Any other questions?
No questions. All right, well, thank you guys for listening in. I really do appreciate all of your input and just the engagement, and we'll see you next time.